registered in your state, well, there may be some reporting requirements that you need to know about. And here to talk with me about that is Rupa Pereira. She's the owner and lead advisor of FWJ Planning in North Carolina. Welcome, Rupa.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So everyone's concerned about something called the beneficial ownership reporting requirement. What is all that about?
Yes. So as part of doing taxes and kind of filing my foreign bank account information report at FinCEN, I noticed that there is a new requirement for business entities that are registered in the United States. They could be domestic or they could be foreign, but if they are registered to do business in the United States, then there's a new requirement as part of the Corporate Transparency Act. It is that all entities need to are required to report their beneficial ownership information, BOI in short. And this is something that sprung upon us effective January 1st of this year. And we have until the end of this year to comply, but the timelines vary depending on when you were registered.
Right. So who does the BOI report apply to?
Yes, great question. So the BOI requirement applies to pretty much any business entity that is registered with the state or with the tribe, Indian tribe, according to the law in the United States. And this could be a C corporation, a subchapter S corporation, or it could even be a single member LLC. And which, according to the stats, there are around 32 million of these business entities that currently exist in the United States. So, there could be a single member LLC, they could have employees, no employees. It doesn't matter if they are virtual or have a physical presence, they may have a reporting requirement.
Yeah. Is anyone exempt from this requirement?
As of now, FinCEN, which is the financial center of the Financial Crime Enforcement Network, which is publishing who is required, who is not required, there are 23 exemptions that currently exist. And that's something that I would encourage everybody to go take a look at. And the reason these exemptions exist is because either they are tax exempt or they may already fall under other reporting regulations such as the SOX or the FINRA regulation. And there is a link on the website that would allow them to know, hey, am I required to report or do I fall under one of the various exemptions? And that's where I would direct people to go to. Generally, if it's a publicly traded company, it's exempt. If it's a nonprofit, it's exempt. If it is a bank or a credit union, it is exempt. And if they have more than 20 full-time employees and more than 5 million in gross receipts, and if they have a physical presence in the United States, then they would be exempt.
Yeah. So in the article that we're publishing on Retirement Daily, you also mentioned sole proprietors and partnerships. I'm thinking that my barber down the road from me is a sole proprietor. Hopefully he doesn't have to comply with this reporting requirement.
That is correct, Bob. So a sole proprietor is not somebody who would have gone through a registration process. And even if it's a partnership between two members that chose to do business together, they may not have filed or registered their business with the state. So they don't currently have a filing requirement. Some of the revocable trusts may also not have a reporting requirement because they are not registered under a separate identification number. So there are a few exemptions. The main thing to think about is, did you go through a registration process when you registered your business entity before you conducted business? And it may not even be an active business, but at some point you registered it. If that's the case, then you may be a reporting entity, but if not, then you may be one of those exempt, or you may not even have a reporting requirement.
Yeah. So for many people watching this video or reading your article, this may be the first time that they've heard of the BOI reporting requirement. And now they're asking, when is it due, right? Do I have any time here?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I think before I even get to the timeline, people kind of think about reporting requirements as far as taxes. So income tax filing is a separate annual reporting requirement where we have to file with the IRS. this reporting requirement is different in terms of its frequency, in terms of where you file it, and in terms of when you file it. So in terms of when this report is due, it depends on when the business was set up. When was it registered? If it was an existing business as of January 1st, 2024, then we have until the end of the year to complete our reporting requirement, which is we have until December 31st to comply. If somebody set up their business entity between January 1st and anytime during this year, if they haven't done so, but they will choose to do so in 2024, then they have 90 days from the time that they are registered to comply. And beginning 2025, if they choose to kind of register their business entity in January 2025 and beyond, then they have only 30 days. So the timeline kind of gets compressed depending if you're existing, if you're already new as of 2024, or if you have yet to become a business entity beginning 2025.
Yeah. So a lot of people might be thinking that the information required might be onerous, but can you tell us what is required and what isn't required?
Yes. The information is what one would classify as PII pretty much. So there would be information that is required on the company. If it is a reporting company, the reporting company would have to disclose the name of the company, the legal name of the company, the physical address of the company, if there is a taxpayer ID that is associated with the company. If there isn't, then FinCEN encourages them to go and request an IRS ID, which is pretty straightforward and direct, where you could submit it online. On the beneficial ownership information, which is anybody that has a beneficial owner, pretty much is somebody who has ownership interest, which is at least 25%. They own the company, which in the case of a single member LLC, that would be, the single member. Or if they don't have 25% voting interest or stock interest or equity interest, they may have substantial control over the company, which is they may be either an executive, they may be either having the authority to appoint or remove any executive, or they may have significant influence to make important business and operating decisions for the company. These are the ones that would be classified as beneficial owner. And a beneficial owner has to be a natural person, which it has to be a real person, not another business entity. On the beneficial owner, they would need information such as your name, your date of birth, your physical address, and a form of ID, which could be either a driver's license, an active one, a passport, or any other type of ID. And that is what needs to be provided as part of the beneficial owner for a reporting company. And there could be multiple beneficial owners on which one needs to provide information.
So how do you go about filing the BOI?
Yeah, so there's only one way to file the BOI currently, and that is to directly go to the source. The website is FinCEN, FIN Crime Enforcement Network, fincen.gov/BOI. They have made it very simple, very secure, and it's a free reporting currently. You could either file it online or you could fill it out in an editable PDF and upload the PDF.
So if someone decides to skip filing the BOI, what happens?
Yes, so that is, since this is a relatively new filing requirement, one would expect that, the Treasury or FinCEN would go easy on those that fail to comply. However, per their website, the penalty of failing to comply is pretty stringent. There could be civil and criminal penalties. As of January 1st, they were 500 per day of not filing past the deadline. And this penalty is actually indexed for inflation. And if there is willful failure, which is somebody knew they had a requirement and they still did not file, which is something that could be disputed, that could result in criminal penalties, and that could go up to 10,000.
Yeah. So is there a place that someone can learn more about the BOI if they have questions?
Yes, and that is where I go. That's my source of truth, and that is constantly being updated. In fact, the last time I checked, it were the FAQs, the frequently asked questions, were updated as of June 10th. That is fincen.gov. If you go to fincen.gov/BOI, there is an FAQ page which has, I believe, 48 pages if one were to download it as a PDF. So there's enough information for somebody to kind of get to know, does this apply to me? How do I go about doing this? When is it due? And what are the risks if I fail to comply, within the due date?
Yeah. So from a practical perspective, Rupa, would you wait until December to file this, given the potential for changes to the reporting requirements, or file it straight away?
Yeah, well, that is on the mind of pretty much any tax professional or even legal counsel. And what we saw in March of this year was there was a challenge which was upheld in the court of Alabama. So certain members of the National Small Business Association, they currently are not required to comply with this requirement because the court upheld their challenge. Chances are there might be other challenges that may be raised and it may be addressed in the court. So for existing companies, technically they have until December 31st of 2024 to comply, which is what I would say, you're not out of compliance. It's like some people wait until the end of the tax deadline to file their taxes. So if there are those that want to wait until the end, practically we have that time. But the window is very short for those that have incorporated this year.
Right. So, Rupa, we covered a lot of ground. Anything we missed or just bears reemphasizing?
Well, I would kind of go back to highlighting that small businesses don't have to be those that are C corporations or any corporations. It could be just an innocent LLC that was created for very different reasons. It may not even have any employees. It could be something that you created and you forgot about it, but you are filing your annual report every year. You might be one of those that have a reporting requirement. And if you're not sure, that's when it's a good conversation to have with your accountant or your attorney or anybody that can counsel you on, hey, do I meet an exception? Am I required to report, or is there anything else that I could do to avoid kind of providing all this information that would prevent me from being anonymous?
Well, Rupert, it's been a pleasure having you share your knowledge and wisdom with us. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. And I would say, as a professional, I was caught off guard last quarter of 2023, which is why I think it's very important for everybody to know, just because we don't hear a lot about this in mainstream news, but it is very much front and center in the tax and accounting world.
Our goal is to spread this news far and wide so that everyone who needs to know about it does get a chance to learn about it. So thank you again.
Appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.